Hello, everyone. Welcome to Tuesday Tea Time. I am in Seattle for a little bit until I head to my big plane a little later today to head to Poland for my first spring clinic of the tour. Then I'll be in the UK, then I'll be in Indiana. I'm really looking forward to this trip. But it's tea time. And for those of you who like to hear what I have to say about horse training, I do have some thoughts. I always have some thoughts. And today's thoughts are about a session that I did yesterday with my stallion Ari that are all about the quiet moments. I find that a lot of people come to me with big problems. What do I do if my horse bites me? What do I do if my horse runs away? What do I do if my horse has high anxiety or can't sleep or has no friends or is difficult to predict or untrustworthy? I get a lot of people coming to me with big problems. What do I do in the moment of a problem? And my answer is very, very similar every time. You survive the moment of the problem. You're not gonna fix the problem in the moment it happens unless you invest in a lot of punishment. And even that's a little bit debatable about whether that really fixes the problem. Because most of my students prefer not to use punishment, that means that we have to get ahead of problems. And that means that when a problem comes up, you survive it as safely as you can. It's the only thing you can do if you really want to avoid punishment situations, is stay safe, keep everybody safe, and realize that that's not the time to fix the problem. The time to fix the problem is in the quiet moments. So I'll share a story with you about Ari. I've had him for, I think about 6 years now. And he has a huge phobia of things underneath his nose. It took him a very long time to learn how to eat hay because he came from the wild as an 8-year-old stallion. And he felt very concerned about grass that was not attached to the ground. So he would eat a bite of hay and that hay would chase him and he would get very upset and afraid of the hay that was chasing him because he didn't think it was right that grass should follow him when he tried to rip it from the ground. Ari doesn't do change very well. He really, really struggled with learning to become a domestic horse with simple things like hay that is not attached to the ground. He much prefers a hay net where he can pull the hay out and it doesn't follow him. He has a lot of situations like that. Drinking out of buckets took him a really long time because buckets tend to clatter or move when you bump the edge unexpectedly. He really prefers to drink from ponds and streams and natural environments. So as an 8-year-old stallion, he struggled with a lot of the things in the domestic world, and he scared himself a lot with things underneath his nose. So this has been an ongoing challenge for us. How do I fix this problem? I'm sure there's lots of people with lots of ideas. Because I do freedom-based training, I'm really interested in how I let Ari be Ari. He gets to have his problem. He gets to have his phobias. He gets to have his fears. He gets to have whatever his problems are. And I love him anyway, even if they never change. Then, from that standpoint, I'm going to see if I can help him make life better. So that means I'm going to find ways to link things being around his nose, underneath his nose, crossing below his nose to positive experiences. And this can be tricky because positive experiences are usually the using of the senses. Relaxation is certainly better than concern, but it's not very memorable because it's the cessation of sensation. So ceasing sensation or stopping sensation makes things not very memorable. So I need to find ways that Ari can be curious and interested in things under his nose without being overwhelmed by them. So eating, when horses are grazing, things like that, they have a tendency to just sort of shut down their senses and eat. There's not a lot of exploring in the eating process. There's not a lot of taking in new information for most horses. There are some horses you'll watch them eat and they'll smell each plant before they eat it, or they will investigate the different grasses in different ways before they ingest them. But most horses just shut down their senses and eat. So in order for Ari to get more comfortable with stuff underneath his nose, I need to find stuff in the quiet moments that we can do that stimulates curiosity without becoming overwhelming into the stage of concern. And that's been a real puzzle. That's been something that I have struggled with for years, and I am interested in that struggle. There's something in that that's going to teach me a lot about horses, a lot about Ari, a lot about training. I wasn't in a hurry to change it or fix it. It wasn't life-threatening. I was interested in learning from it, very slowly, very gently, in a freedom kind of way. Regina says, yes, I can see domestication could really be challenging for a previously wild horse. Imagine these horses in the wrong hands. Some wild horses adapt beautifully. They can't believe all of the luxuries of the domestic world, and they adjust very quickly. Ari's not one of those. Ari's one that really took time to adjust, and I love him for that. I also am on this mission to help him in ways that don't force him to be different than he is. He's allowed to be who he is. We're going to take that into account. We're going to make sure he stays safe. We're going to make sure I stay safe. And then from there, we're going to see if we can make it better. Hey, Elizabeth, I'm glad you're here. One of those ways came up yesterday. So as I've been working with Ari, I look for opportunities that I can pass near his nose. I'm sorry, I had a phone call coming in that'll blip for a second, but I'll be back here. So I had a situation yesterday with Ari where he was very, very, very sleepy. We just let them out in a new pasture the night before. They'd probably been up all night exploring as a herd. Then the next morning, the sun came out after a very cold week, so they were very, very sleepy. In those moments of being sleepy, where they're very, very relaxed, we can often add interesting things and bring them up into curiosity. From rest to being interested in things. Using their senses and then shutting down their senses. Using their senses and then shutting down their senses. And this was what I was able to do with Ari. It was just the perfect day, the perfect time, the perfect place. He ended up lying down for a nap. And for the first time ever, I was able to lie underneath his nose in front of his front legs. And he got to practice crossing his nose from one side of my body to the other side of his body with me underneath his nose. It seems like a little thing. It seems like a nothing sort of fun thing. But what it was a quiet opportunity to work on something that is a very big problem for Ari. That's where you fix problems. You find the origin of the problem. What's underneath the big problem? How do I work on it in the quiet moments where they're going from relaxation or comfort into curiosity and then back to comfort to remember it repeatedly, over and over. Wake up, enjoy something, go back to sleep, let the memory process it, and repeat. That, in my opinion, is your best way to fix big problems. Now, I'm getting on a plane this afternoon. I'm headed to Poland and the UK and Indiana before I come home again 3 weeks from now. Ari gets to think about all the things we practiced, and then we'll practice again when I'm home. This way of training is very, very small gentle inputs into the system that what the horse thought was a problem before is actually a source of curiosity and interest instead of overwhelm. I'm going to do that with any big problem I find. First of all, I'm going to accept the horse for who they are. That's part of their personality. It's part of their character. I love them anyway. And they have another part of their personality and their character that they're growing into. And that's what I'm going to help facilitate. I'm going to do it with a million small moments where they get to experience that thing that used to cause concern. That's what every problem is hyperfixation that causes concern. And I'm going to see if I can link it to curiosity instead of the concern that it was linked to previously. Mary says, how did you invite him to move his nose from side to side? Interesting, Mary, a lot of it was waiting for him to do it naturally. I will post a video in my Patreon group about it. I still have some editing to do. Maybe I'll get it done on the plane. But in any case, I do have some footage that I can share of this moment. And a lot of it was waiting for him to find the reason to do it naturally, because if I ask for it, it's going to potentially be more overwhelming than if he thinks of the idea himself. The other way I could encourage him to do it is I have taught him to seek out a nose touch. So if I hold my hand out, he will swing his nose over to touch my hand. And then we always do something easy after that. So the goal with that, it's a little bit like a target for clicker training, except that that's a very known result of they get food after they touch the target. The goal with the way I do it is it's a wide variety of easy things we do after a nose touch. So the horse will reach for their nose to touch the hand, both because they want life to be easier, and also because they're a little bit interested in the novelty of they're not really sure what easy thing we are going to do next. Might be staring at the view together. It might be hanging out with their friends. It might be drinking some water. It might be eating some grass. It might be eating their hay. It might be taking a walk. But it's always going to be something that's within their comfort zone. So with Ari, I would never cross underneath his nose after he touched my hand. I would give him permission to do the things that he felt were easy enough, but I wouldn't try and force something difficult on him right after that. That's what causes him to keep seeking out the nose touch, because he believes life will be easier and more pleasant after he does it. Then I can use it to draw his nose across the top of my body. If I'm lying down on the ground underneath it, he can touch my hand, and isn't that interesting? We can just rest there after that. That is sufficiently easy. So I see that Louise says, when they offer it naturally, it seems often to be how much they can handle in that moment. Exactly right, Louise. When we set up the environment, it's quiet, it's peaceful, and then we're willing to wait for when curiosity happens naturally, it's what their whole system is ready for. That's often too slow for the human who wants faster progress, but if they can offer it, it's the deeper progress. So no matter how big your problem is with your horse, and we all have them, we all have different problems with different horses, but no matter how the big problem is, you're not going to train the problem away in the moment of the problem. You're going to train the problem away by realizing its origins, and its origins are what concerns your horse. How do we take whatever that thing is that concerns your horse and link it to curiosity instead of linking it to concern? And we do that in the quiet moments. So hopefully that's some good food for thought. I know that I get to see some of you in Poland this week, some of you in the UK next week, and some of you in Indiana the week after that. I'm looking forward to it, and thank you guys for joining me for tea time. I am going to go get my bag sorted and head to the big plane shortly here. Have a wonderful day, you guys.